Just give me one quick second.
Am I supposed to be recording my video?
No, I can just use your Zoom voice.
Okay.
Welcome back to Rewind with bschwitty, because it's a very lower me into acid kind of attitude. Today is a special factual day. I'm not doing anything crazy like last week. Let me know if you enjoyed Mr. bschwitty's neighborhood in the comments below. I definitely went full weird on that one. But today we are bringing in my friend Andrew, who I co-host a podcast with called Namely 90s. But I'm bringing him in so that we could do the first ever segment called Andrew Asks, where he asks us 5 questions about wine and I try to answer them for him. And if not, I failed both him and you and myself, which I guess that's more than just 2 people that both would imply. Hello, Andrew. I don't know where you're coming in. Maybe you're literally on the green screen behind me. Who knows? Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Do you have anything to promote other than Namely 90s?
No, right now that's all I'm doing. I mean, clearly I'm not doing anything else, such as working full time and having 7,000 children, but and
project ideas. By the way, yes. For those of you that remember all the way back to season 1, this is Andrew, the person that I had a bet with that I would be the first to 100 subscribers on YouTube before he would, and I won. So, yay.
And I hadn't even subscribed to my own channel.
Yeah, I was his only subscriber by the time I got to 100 subscriptions.
Yeah, I start a lot of things and don't finish them.
But today is different. Today, we are going to be seeing, whatever he wants to ask about.
Okay. 5 questions. It's about wine. Oh, here's a good one. What do you do if you get pieces of cork in the wine after you open it?
Ooh, that is a good question. While cork in your wine won't really affect the flavor other than the fact that you're drinking bits of cork, what you could do is pull out a fine mesh sieve and pour through that. That'll catch your corks. You could also decant your wine into a decanter if you have one, and try to stop it before any of the cork bits get into it. My sommelier friends out there know what I'm talking about. When you're decanting wine, which I might throw up a link to a previous episode to show you how to use a decanter, you can look through the neck of the bottle to make sure the big chunks aren't going into the decanter. And finally, this might ruin the wine, but I believe I've seen people put saran wrap into the wine and catch the cork and pull it out. Yeah.
Weird.
But the saran wrap will also affect some of the flavor profile. It's actually supposed to de-cork taint the wine. But we did an episode on that and it didn't work. All right, that's one.
Okay. Well, as a follow-up question to that, which wine should be decanted? Is it based on varietal, age, or quality, or some combination thereof?
That's a good question, Andrew. So it is a combination thereof, but most importantly, the wines that should be decanted generally are older wines that you have. I would say anything over 3 years. Usually they would be red wines if you're holding onto wine for a long time. And then the red wines that are typically better to store long term include like higher tannin wines, so like Cab Sauv, Syrahs, anything in the Bordeaux varietal family. And then when they're like over 10 years, you're going to want to be careful because corks might fall apart and fall into it. And then there's going to be some sediment if you've stored your wine correctly instead of shaking it up right before drinking it, which don't do that, people. So to decant, you again, I have a video for it, but You have a decanter. You take the foil all the way off the neck so you can see through it as you're pouring, and you stop before any like darker sediment gets into the decanter. That's 2.
Okay. Question number 3. They say that wines get better with age, but is that true of all wines? And can wines go bad?
All right. That is a good question. I know I keep saying that, but that is what I've been told to say when I'm trying to think of an answer. Instead of just going, So your question was, do all wines get good with age? No, white wines you want to drink within like a year or 2 of its vintage date. Generally, rosés really should be drank within a couple months if you haven't drank that immediately. And some reds like Pinot Noir don't have a higher tannin content like I was talking about. So those you want to consume within 3 to 5 years of the vintage date on the bottle. In general.
Okay. Same. It's part of the same question.
Okay.
What about champagne?
Champagne. Well, champagne, which is from France, doesn't always have a vintage on the bottle, if I remember correctly. So does champagne get better with age? Not. It's. You can age it. I don't know if it really develops into something that's much better. But it's not going to ruin it. Like with all wines, it'll lose any fruitful notes that it has, which since it's champagne, proper champagne, it's going to start yeasty to begin with. And by the time, if you've aged it a long time, it's going to be very bready. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, yes, I have some champagne that I need to get to sooner rather than later. And then for like champagne adjacent stuff like Prosecco or any other type of sparkling, like long-term storage is fine because the carbon dioxide that's in the wine is going to, because it's under pressure, right? So it's not going to ruin the wine that way. But unless you have like some very high end champagne, there's no reason to sit on it for more than a couple of years.
And last follow-up question. I have to know. I heard a rumor that sparkling wine should be stored upright and other wines should be stored on their side. Is that true?
More or less. So regular wine you want to store on either its side or neck down if you're keeping them in cases like I might be. And the idea there is that it's pushing any sediment that might form from the back of the bottle to the neck like you would in champagne. That's not true. That's not why you're doing it, but that is a result of it happening. The reason you're doing it is because it was believed for decades to probably centuries, up until recently. They did some studies recently that disproved it, but there used to be the consensus that corks would stay hydrated as long as there's wine touching it, so that's why you lay the bottles either sideways or neck down, because the wine will continually make sure that it doesn't dry out. Whereas champagne, you do probably want to store it neck up because one, the sparkling champagne, that kind of enclosure has a cage around it, but it's if it were upside down and if the cage was to come loose and the cork is pressurized, it's going to pop out and then just spill the wine down or on its side. And while champagne corks can dry out as well, it's not as likely due to the surface area of the cork covering like the entire top of the wine versus corks in a wine bottle are just stuck in the neck. So did that answer your questions for you?
Yes.
For our first edition of Andrew Asks here on Rewind.
Oh, I thought I had 2 more. Did those ones count?
Do you want to go for 2 more?
I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
Does a wine having a screw cap versus a cork really say anything about the quality, or is that just a choice?
Good question. Not anymore. Back previously, screw caps only used to be used in like Australia and New Zealand because it's cheaper, and the quality of their wines back when they started becoming popular weren't as good as, say, something from the United States or from the old world, where corks were dominant. But now in the last 5 years or so, screw caps have become not only cost effective because corks are expensive, but the ageability in a screw cap is almost as good, if not better than with a cork, because a cork, you have the possibility of cork taint in your corks, whereas a screw cap is you're not going to have a random chance that your bottle is just destroyed. That being said, traditionalists will still use corks and consider their highest quality wines to be used with corks, but it as we keep shifting towards screw caps, you'll see higher quality wines being put in with a screw cap enclosure.
Okay. I have one more real question and then two joke questions.
All right.
I once bought a bottle of white wine, and when I was pouring it, I noticed that there was a bunch of like flocculant, sort of turbid, floaty white things in it.
Yes.
Which as a wine novice concerned me greatly. Mm-hmm. What was that, and should I have drank that wine?
Most likely that is tartaric acid. We used to call that flavor crystals back in the day. What happens was the wine that you bought wasn't cold stabilized, most likely, because you said it was a white.
It was.
And this happens in smaller batch whites. The proteins will attach to, I forget the exact scientific explanation, but it has to do with proteins and precipitates and or is it sublimates? Precipitates. You're the chemistry guy.
Yeah, right.
But essentially, it's just when the wine gets cold enough, it'll precipitate out these, I'm pretty sure it's tartaric acid crystals, which it's also the stuff that you'll find like on the bottom of your cork if you've aged a wine for a long time. It's just it's a natural part of the wine. It does make your wine look like it has flakes or cloudy.
Snow globe.
Exactly. So that's why wineries try to do a process called cold stabilization, which is where they lower the temperature of the wine for probably a couple weeks until all of that has already precipitated out. I really hope I'm using the correct term.
That is correct. Precipitated is correct.
Yeah. So it's basically they do that, and then they rack the wine off of the solids, and you generally don't have to encounter that. But if you buy some smaller batch bougie white wine, it's highly possible that it didn't spend time in the fridge long enough, and when you put it into your fridge or freezer, it created
bougie.
Yes. Did I answer that question?
Yes, you did. Okay, time for my two joke questions.
Okay.
Everyone has like that aunt who says, actually, boxed wine is pretty good. Is it?
Well, I have a video where I tried out the best boxed wine last season. People roasted me for saying it wasn't good, but it wasn't. It's I mean, like with regular wine, there's varying qualities of wine. Would I choose to drink boxed wine over something I could get living in wine country? No. If I was in the middle of America and needed a quick fix, I would drink some black box wine. If you're particularly talking about Franzia, there's a time and a place to slap the bag, and that's generally when you're either a late teen to early 20s.
And in what way is that related to the huge jug of wine they used to have with the Olive Garden? Do you remember that? That's like a thing in Italy, right?
Jug wine. Well, so there's two different things. There is something called jug wine, which is essentially what all these low tier wines that you could get, like Franzia, used to be served in. Like they would just fill your jug and you'd go on your way and you'd have a jug of wine. But what you're thinking of is Chianti likes to make their big boys of wine in that little fanned bottle. The looks like bamboo shoots. I know they're not bamboo shoots, but I know what you're talking about. No, that's probably just like a large bottle of Chianti from the Olive Garden that they drank, hopefully, at one point and then just put on display.
And my last question, is Red Bull a type of wine? Can it be?
It can probably be made into wine. How much sugar's in that?
I'm getting notes of poison and B vitamins. It's really unpleasant.
Throw some yeast into that and some grape juice and you might be able to call it a wine. But no, if it doesn't have any fruit to ferment, it is by law not considered a wine.
Dang it. All right, well, that's fine. Well, hey, thanks for answering all my questions.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and filling up a Wednesday episode that I didn't feel like writing or taking the time to edit too much. If you want to hear us prattle on about the 90s, head over to naming90s.com/listen and download us to your favorite podcast app. We are two childhood best friends that host a comedy nostalgia podcast that looks back at a month in a year in the 90s each week. We release episodes every Monday, rain or shine. Sometimes we even do a whole special 12 days of Christmas specials. Yes. How many times can I say the word special?
Special. It's special, I'll tell you.
But yes, find us there or on YouTube by going to naming90s.com/YouTube. And remember,
spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I don't remember the 90s.
No, he does not. And remember, you can find me here at youtube.com/rewind show. And while you're here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, throw me a like, leave me a comment. How did this episode go? I want to know. And ring the bell to get notified when new episodes come out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can also find me over on Instagram by going to @Rewind Show, where 10-minute versions of these episodes get uploaded to IGTV. And as always, I'm on Twitter @bschwitty. This has been Rewind. My name is bschwitty, and I will catch you next time.